Welcome to the first class in the study of the final chapter, fourth and the final chapter of the Yoga Sutras. This chapter is titled Kaivalya Pādaḥ. It is the chapter on liberation. Kaivalyam means liberation. The meaning of we'll see that meaning of Kaivalya, literally it means aloneness. It's like you're a loner. It means it is the separation of Puruṣa from Prakriti. Puruṣa standing alone. So that is the meaning of Kaivalyam. We'll see that in more detail. It's a beautiful chapter, very poignant verses. So these are the contents, motivation. Then was the fourth chapter, a later addition. The organization of the Yoga Sutras we'll go through, and we'll study the three main topics: Janma, Karma, and Moksha. And in between, there is a topic on the mind and the gunas. This is a very interesting and profound topic. Very clearly analyzes the mind and how the Puruṣa perceives the mind. So this is there. And the relationship between Puruṣa and Prakriti, and finally, Kaivalya. Okay. Now, we are all very busy in life, right? Let's try to see the big picture, motivate ourselves. What's the purpose of studying all these abstruse, seemingly abstruse concepts? The motivation is a narrow view of life. Let's say you get a health problem, God forbid, but let's say we get a health problem. Then it feels very constrictive. I cannot do this activity, I can't do that, all those things. Few options, so stress and fear. Whereas when you see the big picture view across lifetimes, there are many options. So it gives rise to freedom and ease. So that's why when you're working in the office, just constrained between the four walls, you feel stress. But when you go see the Grand Canyon, you feel expansion. You see how insignificant your problems are in the scale of the universe. So this is the chapter, as I said, on Janma. Janma means birth. Karma, our actions resulting in residues, karmic residues or imprints, which are also called the samskaras, which trigger us to produce more actions. And so this becomes a self-fulfilling cycle. And the escape out of it is through moksha. So, as I said, Kaivalyam literally means isolation. It means aloneness. Keval means being separate. It does not mean a loner, one who shuns company. It means the Puruṣa standing alone, or the ability of the mind to isolate the Puruṣa from the Prakriti. Okay, so far, is it clear? Okay. There are many synonyms for Kaivalya. This is in the Yoga Sankhya context, they don't use the term moksha. In the Vedantic context, they use the term moksha. And mukti is another term. We've seen jivan mukti, that is while living, being liberated. After that, you just have to exhaust your prarabdha karma. And then videha mukti. After that, videha mukti, videham means without the deham, without the body. A liberation, and once you cast off the body, there's no further births or deaths. Then another term used in Yoga Sutras is apavarga. Bhoga apavargartam drishyam. Okay, so the purpose of the Prakriti is to provide experience to the jiva, that is the individual, and also the bhoga is the experience of pleasure, pain, everything, and apavarga, which is liberation. Then the another term used in Vedanta is nirvana, Brahma nirvanam, that is attaining this, realizing you are Brahman. So these are all the terms used. Now comes a big debate. Was the fourth chapter a later addition. Many people give many reasons. If you see Edwin Bryant's book, he would use this reason. Edwin Bryant is a Western professor at he retired at Rutgers University, and he wrote a book which is popular in the West on the Yoga Sutras, and he says that typically what happens is when a topic is ended, it ends as tas iti. So this is the last sutra. Remember, we studied it last class, attainment of Kaivalya. This is the last sutra of the third chapter, 3.55. Sattva Purushayo Shuddhi Samye Kaivalyamiti. Thus, when the purity of the intellect becomes equal to the purity of Purusha, absolute liberation is attained. So, thus means this, so, and it ends that way. And he therefore concludes the third chapter is, the fourth chapter is a later addition. But there are more scholarly reasons why people think the fourth chapter could be a later addition. It's just a debate. We don't know. The fundamental change in the philosophical focus between the first three chapters and the final one. The Kaivalya Pādaḥ, see, if you see the third chapter, it just talked about Kaivalyam, attainment of Kaivalyam. And again, why should there be another full chapter called Kaivalya Pādaḥ? So the reason is as follows. The Kaivalya Pādaḥ contains a critique of other doctrines, primarily Buddhist. This is the one where the mind and the Purusha are studied. And some people say the repeat of Kaivalya, which is emphasizes the goal in the first three chapters, seems unnecessary. And also, there are dense and argumentative sutras in the fourth chapter compared to the concise sutras of the previous chapters. So these are some of the reasons people quote why the fourth chapter could be a later addition. So the doctrinal shift and the philosophical content, there's a critique of mostly Buddhism. The Kaivalya Pādaḥ contains a lengthy critique of Buddhist doctrines, particularly the theory of momentariness, Kshanikavada and Vijnanavada. In the Yogacara school, what it says is the mind is the final entity. Everything happens in the mind. The world is not real. Everything is a figment of imagination in the mind. That is the final thing. So Yoga Sutras clearly says, no, the world does exist. And it says there is something beyond the mind called the Purusha. So this is something that you will see. Okay, so just to recap, this is how the Yoga Sutras are organized. Samādhi Padah, it's a definition of yoga practice. Then Patanjali right away goes to advanced states of Samādhi. Raja Yoga, this is called Raja Yoga. We saw up to Nirbija Samādhi. Tasyapi nirode sarpa nirodan nirbija samadhihi. Can does somebody want to say why this style is adopted here? After defining yoga practice, straight away going to these advanced states makes no sense. Anybody wants to say, Amy?
Sure. Yeah, for the advanced student, they can just read the first chapter and be done.
Yeah. So this is a style which is adopted in some of these texts. After introducing the topic matter, they just jump to the advanced topics so that the advanced students don't have to read beyond the first chapter. Then the Sadhana Padah, foundation for Ashtanga Yoga and the first 5 limbs of Ashtanga Yoga. Finally, the third chapter is Vibhuti Padah, the last 3 limbs of Ashtanga Yoga, and the siddhis, which are the perfections or superhuman powers from meditation. And finally, the Kaivalya Pādaḥ, Janma, birth, karma, actions, and the residues of the actions, and moksha, liberation from the cycle of samsara. Samsara is the Janma karma loop. So, organization again, how siddhis arise. So, Janma, how siddhis arise and how yogis use them and what causes janma. Then it goes into karma, action, samskaras, the imprints and future births. Then the nature of the Puruṣa and Prakṛti. Here there are arguments against some schools of Buddhism. And then finally moksha, the liberation from samsara, or the cycle of rebirths. There are 9 sutras that refute the school of thoughts in certain sects of Buddhism. Okay. So janma causes karma, right? You are born and then you do actions which leave imprints. And because of those imprints, it causes future births, janma again. So this cycle is called samsara. To break it is moksha. So you don't go through this cycle. That is what all these texts talk about: yoga, Vedanta, everything. Now we'll go into the first sutra, a beautiful sutra, starting with janma, that is birth. Birth of siddhis, or how siddhis arise. Janmaushadhi mantra tapas samādhi siddhaya. The siddhis are born from janma, birth, aushadhi, medicinal herbs, mantra, chanting incantation, tapaha, austerity, and samadhi, meditational absorption. Later, Patanjali will say in the 7th or the 8th sutra, 6th sutra, he'll say that tatra dhyana jamanashayam, but this the best forms of getting all these powers is from samadhi, because there are no residues of imprints left. It is the cleanest way. Now, this is also a very abused sutra, because aushadhi just means medicinal herb. It doesn't mean use of drugs to get certain states of mind. So some people quote this and say, it's okay, even Patanjali said that, so we can do all the drugs. So it's not probably the right interpretation. So certain medicines can clarify the mind, and they're used in a medicinal context, but not to be abused. Okay, so this is the connecting sutra. Remember, sutra means it comes from the word suture, the thread, suture, the thread. So there are many gems on the thread. So there's a connection. What runs through? There's a common flow of thought. So this chapter connects the previous chapter. The sutra connects the previous chapter to this chapter on janma, starting with janma. And what determines the next birth? So this is an interesting sutra. It could be a little abstruse, but once we explain, you'll see why Patanjali wrote it this way. Jatyantara parinama prakritya pura. At the end of one birth, jati means it's a class, a species, state of existence. The end of one birth, the transformation into another, antara, another. Parinama means transformation. Jati, antara parinamaha, the transformation into another class, species. Our jati literally means class, species, or state of existence, category of birth. Example, human birth, animal birth, celestial birth. It happens by filling in by the Prakriti. By the filling in by the Prakriti is the innate nature, or the storehouse of karma. What it says is there is continuation from one birth to another through Prakriti under the force of karma. So there is nothing like, so we are saying, okay, you're born, you die, like that, right? But for the jiva, that is the sukshma shariram, there is nothing like that. It's like changing the clothes. One day you wear one shirt, another day you wear another shirt. Is there any change to you? No, there's no change. You're just wearing something different. Like that, in the Bhagavad Gītā, it says, Vasansi jirnani yata vihaya navani grinnati naroparani tata sharirani vihaya jirnani anyani sanyati navani dehi. Like the dehi, the indweller, just like casting off another old clothes and wearing new ones, it just goes through different bodies. Like that, there's continuation from one birth to another through Prakriti under the force of karma. Okay, Jati, that is the class, category of birth. Antara, another birth comes, the transformation into another birth. Parinama, Antara Parinama means transformation to another. Jatyantara Parinama, transformation into another class or species. It is by Prakriti Apurat, by the filling in by the Prakriti. You put pressure, like a squeezing a container with water, like a toothpaste tube, the thing flows out. So what is the pressure? The pressure is the karma, the karmic imprints, the force of karma that pushes in one way. So this is, see how very technical it is. He could have just made it simple like Bhagavan does in Bhagavad Gītā, like putting one cloth and casting it off and it's old and getting another one. So this explains the mechanics of samsara. This is very Sankhyan way of doing it. The Purusha remains unchanged. The Prakriti contains the latent possibilities of experience. So all those are there in the Prakriti. So Prakriti is a vast Prakriti of which we are a part. The karma, the pressure of karma unlocks a particular configuration due to which you get a certain birth. Okay, a new body, sense system, mind pattern, fill in. This is experienced as another birth or another species/state. Okay, it's a little abstruse way of putting the whole thing. So far, is it clear? Does anybody have any questions? Okay. Now, removing the obstacles to Prakriti. So Patanjali says, Nimittam aprayojakam Prakritinam Varana Bhedastu Tata Kshetrikavat. Look what he's saying. Nimittam aprayojakam. Nimittam means instrumental cause or a trigger to do certain things. Like you work very hard. What's the instrumental cause things? Our actions. You do a lot of tapas, let's say, to gain certain states of the mind. Tapas is austerity. But Patanjali says instrumental causes are needed, but they do not directly move the Prakriti into action. What do? The tapas purifies you. Rather, they remove the obstacles. From that, Prakriti acts by itself like water flowing into bunds. When a farmer breaks a barrier, bunds. This is how in ancient days, the farming, they would farm close to a water body, a river, say. They do not take buckets of water and come and pour it. What they, in ancient days, this is how they do. They would create bunds. Bunds are these narrow striations in the land that they would till. So water flows into the fields like a network of channels. So Varana Bhedastu Tataha Kshetrikavat. So let's look at this. Nimittam, instrumental cause, we've seen. Aprayojakam, it means not useful. It means not the direct mover, not the one that pushes Prakriti into action. Prakriti nam, of the Prakriti's innate nature, it is not the direct mover of the Prakriti. But tu means but, Varana Bedaha, breaking the room, covering, obstruction. Varanam, avaranam means it's a great obstruction. We saw that tatakshiyate prakashavaranam, the wheel, it's removed. Bedaha, to break. So it breaks open the obstruction. So there's instrumental causes like tapas, the tapas austerity that you do. It doesn't directly give you a higher birth, but it removes the impurities of the mind so the Prakriti can flow and fill in. Tataha, and from that, all these, from that, Prakriti acts by itself like water flowing into bunds when the farmer breaks the barrier. Kshetrikavata, like a farmer, like the cultivator of a field. Okay. So this is a very, it may look on the outside, it looks very, it's like almost silly or makes no sense, but it's actually profound. It's the key point. It's very similar to Vedanta. So Vedanta, for those who've taken those classes, says there is karma yoga and jnana yoga. Karma yoga, to get to the path of liberation. They say karma yoga is like elementary school, jnana yoga is like middle school or high school. In order to graduate, that is attain moksha, can you skip elementary school? No, you can't skip elementary school. So elementary school is a preparation for higher studies. Like that, these nimittam, these instrumental causes, they are called karma yoga. They are required to purify the mind, to remove the obstructions. Then the knowledge can flow, like the Prakriti unfolds according to its own latent capacity. Okay. And in the context of Vedanta, what is the obstruction? So the obstruction, does Vedanta students, anybody can answer? Vedanta says karma yoga only removes the obstruction. What's the obstruction? Anybody?
I wanted to say ignorance, but I feel like
Ignorance, very good.
Oh.
Yes, ignorance is the obstruction. So when you remove the ignorance, then it's like the clouds, right? The sun is always there. That is you, the Atma. But what's obstruct? You can't see the sun because clouds are obstructing. When the clouds part, the sunlight comes in. Automatically, it's self-revealed. The Atma is Swayam Prakashatvam. It is self-revealed. Okay. Summary of the Sutras 4.2 and 4.3. There is a lot of context behind this. If you just read this, it'll make absolutely zero sense. The context is 4.2 and 4.3 are vital because they move yoga away from an ego-driven pursuit of acquiring spiritual status. They redefine the yogi from being a builder to a cleaner. So that's more like a humble way. If you think you have to push unpressurized water, your practice will be tense and ambitious. Instead, you have to think of it as clean, and then things will naturally flow through. Prakriti is like water under high pressure. It will flow where there is least resistance. So the garden is symbolic of higher life forms. Let's say good things, all these better lives. So you are, and there is a swamp. Okay, there is like very gloomy environment. You can choose where you want to let the water go. So if you you can remove these obstacles so the water flows towards the garden, and you can create a nice gate to prevent water from flowing into the swamp, or you can do the reverse also. When you remove the bad karma, rocks, twigs, everything that's there, through the austerity, water flows into the beautiful garden. When you remove the good karma, that is, you break the golden door, through evil actions, water flows into the swamp. So that is the analogy that is given here, like fast flowing water under pressure. Good actions only cause the removal of samskaras from bad karma, and hence a higher life form in a future birth. Bad actions only cause the removal of samskaras from good karma, hence a lower life form in a future birth. The these texts say that you are already divine, but because of ignorance, you are not able to achieve the superior states. In this context, siddhis. When you stop self-sabotaging, growth happens. In the Bhagavad Gītā, in chapter 6, it's illustrated. Uddharedatmanatmanam natmanam avasadayet atmaiva hyatmano bandhuhu atmaiva ripuratmanah. Atma is one's own best friend, and this Atma here means the self, which is the mind-body complex, and that Atma, it's your own worst enemy. Ripuhu means enemy. So it says when you stop self-sabotaging, growth happens. You are not trying to build divinity, you are already inherently divine. The Purusha are divine, and nature is already prepared to give you a divine vehicle. You are not practicing to You are only practicing to remove the rust and the ignorance and the bad habits, the dam blocking that reality. You are the Purusha and you are ever pure. So that again shows the progress in poses. All the asanas people do, it is to remove the obstacles to the flow of prana. That's how you have to look at it. Okay, now comes we are moving from janma into karma. This is a very, Patanjali or whoever wrote this chapter uses a very abstruse analogy. It took me a long time. Even Swami Hariharananda's commentary, it did explain a certain things, but the connection between Sutra 3 to Sutra 4, it took me so long, a lot of head pounding to finally understand what's going on. Now, Patanjali, or the author of this chapter, says, can a mind exist and function without producing karmic bondage? So just because of the fact that you have a mind, automatically, helplessly will you gather karma. So janma is getting connected. Can a mind exist and function without producing karmic bondage? Is there a way to for the mind to exist without producing good and bad karma? For us, whenever we do something, karma, we produce Shukla karma, Krishna karma. Shukla karma is white karma, which is good actions. Krishna karma is bad karma, which is bad actions, or Mishra karma, mixed actions, so mixed results. Now, Patanjali says, or the author says, yes, for a yogi whose mind has become barren like burnt seeds due to discriminative knowledge, this is possible. The mind will not produce karma. We remember this term again and again, everything with burnt seeds, barren ground, that which is not suitable for sprouting these things. Everything is gone. The mind, it doesn't sprout more karma. We've seen that before. Now, this is where confusing. He's using a very strange example. Maybe because he discussed the siddhis, he wants to continue. Strange example of multiple created minds to illustrate janma from karma. To illustrate that mind alone does not cause karmic imprints. Just because you have a mind doesn't mean it will cause karmic imprints. Mind plus action does not automatically equal further karmic residues. What it means is in order for you to get enlightened, it doesn't mean you should not do action. People are afraid, if I act, I want to become. Arjuna's problem was exactly this. He wanted to run away from the battlefield, go to a forest, sit and meditate. Krishna says, no, you have to fight the battle. So the important thing, mind plus action does not automatically equal further karmic residues. You can do actions and still not have karmic residues. What causes karmic residues is mind plus action plus the latent samskaras, the trigger. You have an itch for a certain craving for a food. that creates a certain action which is not holistic. That equals binding karmic residues. So the samskaras, those are necessary. Okay. The Patanjali uses the example of a yogi whose mind has all the samskaras burnt away. In the sense, they will not instigate the body to create future karmic actions. So, shariram kevalam karva kurvan apnoti kilbisham. So, they only do shariram kevalam karma, whatever is just needed for the maintaining the body and for the welfare of the world. Okay. Okay. The context: yogi is creating multiple bodies and minds for certain reasons. We'll see what those reasons are. He is using this example. It's a very strange example to illustrate this concept that just actions alone won't create karmic residues. It is actions triggered by these samskaras, which are then that results in not holistic actions, which create the cycle. But for a yogi whose mind has all the samskaras burnt away, like burnt seeds, a burnt seed will not sprout into future lives, right? So like that, a yogi's mind is purified. Okay, in this example, there are three things. So, advanced yogi, this principle is called kaya vyuha. Arrangement, vyuham is arrangement. By multiplying the bodies and the minds, yogis can apparently create these siddhis, and he's just using that as an example to show this fact that just because you have a mind, it won't create future residues. So there's the jati sharira, the innate original body of the yogi. Then there is nirmana kaya. Nirmana kaya means body. So there are created bodies. Okay. Nirmana kaya means a constructed or a manufactured body. So kaya vyuha is the yogic arrangement projection of multiple bodies, and the jati sharira is the natural body obtained through birth. Okay. These the sutras 4.2 to 4.3 establish that the body, senses, and capacities are transformations of Prakriti. Now, Patanjali applies the same principle to an extraordinary case. If a yogi can construct multiple bodies, each body needs a functioning mind. Therefore, 4.4 will ask, where do these constructed minds come from? Okay, and Patanjali is going to say these constructed minds come from the pure I sense, asmita. Okay, the technical term, it's kaya vyuha for this. Okay, the and nirmana kaya is the constructed body. So this example he's using. And what's the purpose of creating these bodies? Out of compassion for the world. Now 4.4 and 4.5 will illustrate the fact that unlike our bodies, which are born in a womb, yogis can create bodies out of the yogic power, apparently. When the mind of a yogi becomes barren and unproductive as a burnt seed through the acquisition of discriminative knowledge, its natural activities cease for want of latent impressions. There are no impressions left behind. Only when you leave an impression, future actions are instigated by the impression. Okay. As to how they can create this, that can be how they can create these self-created minds, it's by the pure I sense. Okay, and these created minds can be terminated at will, apparently. Swami Hariharananda says the pure I sense is free from fluctuations and latencies. Okay, now we've seen enough of this, so we will see an example, like a story of a very famous story in the Bhagavata Purana of multiple created minds. Then we'll go into the meaning of the sutra further, and we'll study the next few sutras in the context of Janma and Karma. Okay, now from transition from Janma into Karma. Okay, this story comes in Bhagavatam, and it's about Kardama Muni. Kardama Muni was a great sage and had been practicing severe penances for thousands of years. Once, so Kardama Muni went to the palace of Swayambhuva Manu. Manu is the mind-born son of Brahma, and he was the progenitor. He is supposed to like populate the world with people. It's just a story, okay? But they all have symbolisms. He had a daughter called Devahuti. Now, when this Rishi Kardama Muni came to Manu's palace, Devahuti was a beautiful princess. She said, I want to marry that sage. So they both liked each other. Kardama Muni, the guy with the beard, austerities and all that. And she was a young girl, woman. She married him. Something in her said that there was a thirst in her for a liberating knowledge. And she thought by marrying him, she would have access to that. So she married him and served him faithfully in the hermitage. So she was just with all her royal attire, she cast all that. She was wearing very simple clothes. They were at the edge of a forest in a small hermitage. So he was always meditating and she was taking care of him. She neglected her own comfort. And she also became very frail, thin, weak, and oh, my screen has been frozen, it says. Okay, let's see what's happening. Okay, so now you can see, right? I don't know why that screen froze. I'll use another camera. Let's see. Yeah, thank you for telling me. The screen freezing. Okay, now we are back to this. Now you can see the original screen. Okay. All right. So she became very thin, weak, everything. And Kardama Muni was touched by her selfless service, and he decided to fulfill all her material desires before he completely renounced the world. He wanted to attain liberation. He used his immense yogic powers to create the following. He created a Vimana, aerial mansion, not just on the ground, it's on the skies. He did not create he created multiple palaces. He didn't create in the sense of different buildings on the ground. He created like one large, magnificent aerial mansion with many, smaller mansions. It was apparently 7 stories high, studded with jewels, diamonds, emeralds. It had pleasure grounds, chambers filled with celestial furniture, decorated with flowers. And the mansion could fly at will. If they travel in it, they travel to the pleasure gardens of the demigods, such as Mount Meru and Manasa Sarovar Lake and other celestial gardens, like there are many things that are described. And to please Devahuti further, and that she enjoyed the full extent of conjugal happiness, he created 9 versions of himself. Kardama created, it's all story only. So he created 9 versions of himself. Kardama Muni expanded himself into 9 personalities, Navavyuha. And before entering the mansion, he asked Devahuti to bathe in the sacred Bindu Sarovara lake. And when she emerged, she regained her youthful beauty and was attended by thousands of Gandharva maidens. Kardama also assumed, because like a old, like a rishi, right? He assumed a handsome, youthful, celestial form. And then he divided himself into 9 youthful forms. So, and she enjoyed all kinds of pleasures. Through these 9 forms, she gave birth to 9 daughters. And all these daughters later married great sages. So the same cycle seems to continue. So, and then she expressed her desire for Bhagavan, Lord Narayana, to be born as her son too, so that she gets taught directly by her son. That was her desire. May the supreme truth come close enough to instruct me directly, was her prayer. She, in ordinary bhakti language, she wanted Bhagavan as her son. In yogic philosophical language, she's asking that pure liberating wisdom take birth within her own life. And then Bhagavan is born as Kapila Muni. So Kapila Muni, some people say, is the person who wrote the Sankhya Sutras. And some people say that's a different Kapila Muni, not the same Kapila Muni in Bhagavatam, but a lot of people say it's the Kapila Muni. And unfortunately, we have the Yoga Sutras which are preserved. All the Sankhya Sutras are lost. So Kapila Muni, Lord, except for a few sutras which are mentioned elsewhere in the Brahma Sutras as a refutation. So Sankhya Sutras are by and large lost. The Lord appears as Kapila Muni, but to teach Sankhya Yoga, the discriminative knowledge. So Sankhya is the discrimination between the Puruṣa and the Prakṛti. So Bhagavan appears as Kapila Muni to teach Devhuti everything. And after that, Kapila Muni leaves and Devhuti renounced the world and attained moksha. So this is the story of Kardama and Devhuti in the context of a yogi creating multiple bodies, which is the example Patanjali, the author, uses in the sutra. Okay, so yogis created minds and bodies. Nirmana chitta asmita matrat. So in the next two sutras, he's going to explain this entire concept that just because you have a mind, automatically you don't create karmic residues. The various created minds are due to the pure essence alone. Remember, we saw the different samādhi states in chapter 1. If you remember, the highest samprajñāta samādhi state is something which is called sasmita samādhi. That is vitarka vichara ananda asmita. So it is called the sa asmita samādhi. And this samādhi, it is this. Okay, the highest form of samprajñāta. Samprajñāta means with the seed of focus. It is the asmita samadhi, sasmita samadhi. At that time, I said there's a difference between asmita and ahankara. Can anybody say what the difference is? We've seen that multiple times. Asmita, ahankara is ego. Asmita is the essence. Ego is also, some people call it the essence. What's the difference? There's a subtle difference. We saw that in the second chapter. Forgot?
Yeah, I don't remember exactly, but I was like, it seems like one is like a wrong identification and the other one's an experience.
What? One is uncolored and one is colored.
Yeah. So I'm trying to find. Okay. Asmita is the pure essence. Ahankara is the ego. So that's the difference between the two. Asmita just means I am. So at the end of this, there is no qualification. Whereas if you say, I am a teacher, I am smart, I am beautiful, I am handsome, it becomes ahankara. So the pure essence, it is I am. So at the end of this samprajñāta samadhi, there is only the thought of I am. There is no distinction. You don't think I'm just existing. You don't think of yourself as man, woman, father, mother, none of those. I am existent. This is Sat Chit Anandam. Existence, consciousness, bliss. You feel the existence. So that is the Sasmita. So he says, these yogis have the power to create multiple minds due to the pure essence, Asmita. Okay? Nirmana Chitta, the constructed minds, are due to the pure essence only. Matrat means only. Okay? And then the question arises, if there are many minds, how do they all fight with each other? So for that, the Patanjali says, The one mind state is the director, the original mind state. That is the director. It directs the multiple minds. Pravritti bhedhe prayojakam chittamekam anekesham. While the activities of the various created minds may be different, there is one mind state that is the director of the many. This mind state springs from our deepest individuality, the asmita. Okay, so pravritti, various activities, the chitta, they all can have their own chittas, bhede, different. Prayojakam, the influencer, the director of all these chittam, these chittams, is ekam for anekesham. So it's for all these minds, it's one director. In sutra, previous sutra, we established that the yogi acts as a manufacturer using their ego to create multiple minds. So if yogi creates 10 bodies, then one body and mind wants to sleep, the other wants to run, another wants to eat. So if these minds were all independent, yogi would suffer from a massive split personality. No, that's not the case. There is one mind which it controls everything. And the Patanjali now comes to the main portion. Tatra dhyanajam anashayam. He says, this mind, what kind of mind that can create all this? It is the mind born out of this. It's a siddhi. Essentially, creating this multiple minds is a siddhi. And the siddhis can be accomplished through 5 ways. Janma, Aushadhi, Mantra, Tapa, Samadhi. Janma, Aushadhi, Mantra, Tapa, Samadhi, Ja, Siddhayah. So the mind born out of meditation is the best among all the others with siddhis, because it does not have karmic impressions. This is the kind of mind which can create the multiple minds. So he says this mind doesn't have karmic imprints, which means the other created minds do not have karmic imprints as well. And then in the next sutra, ashaya means reservoir of past karma. It's the desires. So in the next sutra, he will say, for such a yogi, the karma is neither white nor black. For the other yogis, it is of 3 varieties. So that we will see in the next class. But here he says that this mind arising out of dhyana jam, ja means born out of dhyana, the mind from the dhyana, it has no residues, and it can therefore create these multiple minds which do not create more residues. It is a strange, abstruse way of saying, a yogi, just because you have a mind doesn't mean you will create residues. If all the samskaras are like burnt seeds, there is no residue created. And this is the highest quality mind, he's saying. Okay. So then we'll talk about samskara and vasana. These terms, vasana and samskara, they're used interchangeably. Whenever you think a thought or do an action, not even at the physical level, at the mental level, you think, imprint is formed, and you have to carry it all through your lives. And the imprint is latent or active. So samskara is referring to all these imprints. Some of these imprints become, they start to manifest when the conditions are suitable. When for example, certain foods, when it becomes very hot, you start smelling them, right? Because there's some decomposition happening and the smell starts to come out. That is the vasana. Vasana, literally the word means smell. So when the conditions are active, like you have some food, when it becomes very hot, then it starts decomposing, emanates odors, right? Like that, the vasanas are the ones, the samskaras, which have the right conditions to manifest themselves. So is the difference between samskara and vasana clear? Or are there questions? Yes, no, maybe.
I think I understand. I just want to
Yeah.
make sure I know how to like use it in a sentence. So do you just say vasana karma versus samskara?
Yeah, they're all the same. So when you say karma literally means an action, but it's also used in the context of I've gathered a huge karmic stockpile. There, that karma, it refers to these samskaras.
Okay. But like these terms are they describing types of karma, or are they just used on their own?
They are referring to any type of karmic imprint.
Okay, these are karmic imprints.
Imprints.
Yeah. The way to describe that.
Yeah,
Okay.
karma is an action. That
Right.
action can leave an imprint if it is not pure for all of us. But for the yogis, a karma does not leave an imprint, which is what he's using a confusing example for us of these many minds. And he says all these minds, the yogi can create multiple minds. Just because there is a mind, automatically it doesn't create karma, because the original mind itself is a pure, high quality mind. That's kind of a convoluted way of saying this. I don't know why he gave this example, but that's the context. Is the logic understood? The pure mind,
Yeah.
even if it creates multiple minds, just because it has created multiple minds, will not acquire karma.
Right.
Okay, Sumitra?
Just to understand samskaras and vasanas. So vasanas is something a little more fresh, and
No.
samskara is
No,
latent and active. I didn't understand.
no, vasana, I did not say it is fresh. Sorry, samskara, I did not say it's fresh. I just said samskara is an imprint.
It's an imprint. Imprint that is new is vasana, and imprint that is new or latent is samskara. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, samskaras, all the imprints, those imprints which start fructifying, which have the
Becomes
right
vasana.
conditions, are the vasanas.
Okay.
It's a very but people use it interchangeably all the time. So it doesn't matter. Okay. So we will stop here and do the chanting.